All right, so as we start, like I said, this article here, 17 steps to a better LinkedIn. If you have not gone out to linkedin.com and put a profile out there for yourself, you really should. All right. I was telling the class this morning because I saw somebody starting to ask this. Please, just do me one favor for the rest of the semester. Don't raise your hand and say, do we have to? Just stop doing that. I was telling them over the weekend, my youngest daughter said that she's never been hit in her life. She was real close. I was just going to backhand her because I'm tired of hearing that. I really and truly am. You don't have to do a damn thing if you don't want to. But again, what's going to happen is May 10th is going to come up here faster than you think it is. And it might be, because I had a woman years ago who was in one of my classes, and she was really, really bright. Went both years, 4.0. And her name was Karen. And I said, Karen, have you been sending out resumes? I'm not worried about it. Finally, it was 2 weeks before the end of the semester. I said, Karen, have you sent out any resumes? Well, my husband and I have a cabin up north in Wisconsin. We're going to go up there for 6 weeks, and when I get back, I'm going to start sending out resumes. That's her business. I hope she had fun, seriously. But then she was already 8 weeks behind other people, basically, who had already been sending out resumes. All right? So, I wouldn't wait until the week after graduation. And again, if you've never been out there, you probably have. And maybe this is, it's like for some of you, be like, what the heck are you even bringing this up for? But if you go to linkedin.com, and there's the information. All right? Now, it's interesting, and I just got on right now, but this is interesting. This was one of my students at Blackhawk. All right? This is the first time I ever had a student. He literally got a job. They started him a week before graduation. He started at $55,000 a year. He was a PHP programmer with full benefits immediately. So good things happen sometimes. And he even said, I was lucky. I knew PHP. I was able to show them that. I did a test for them. I did fine. And their PHP programmer quit the week before I applied. So life can be timing, right? All right. So you can go out there and, you can go out and take a look at what's out there. You should be posting your own stuff out there. I will tell you, as an example, mine isn't up to date. If you look out there, I keep getting all these congratulatory messages on my 25 years at Blackhawk, even though I left there 2 years ago, because I haven't changed it. Why didn't I change it? Because my wife is living in Illinois by herself, and I don't want people to know that I'm there where they'd find out that she's over there. That's the only reason. All right? As soon as we thought we sold our house this weekend, but we're not positive yet because we have to get some changing in the contract and see if the people will agree to that. If they have, then she'll be down here in 2 months. All right? Then I'll change it. But you should at least go out, and it's not, the other thing too about this shouldn't be just, well, what I did was I made a copy of my resume and I threw it out there. No, it should be more than that. All right? In fact, at best, you should probably just be highlighting the salient points about your resume. If they want your resume, they're going to do that. Choose the right profile picture, and choose the right verbiage. Again, I asked my wife this, and this was her comment. You could tell me whether or not you agree. She said, stay the hell out. All right? The point is this. My niece was just a super young lady. All right? I have nothing but respect for her. She's raising, her daughter's 8. She's been raising her, since birth by herself. Never asked for anything for anybody. And a couple years ago got a job teaching 8th grade in the Milwaukee public school system. Okay? She posts all sorts of stuff, and that's on Facebook, and that's her right. Last week it was or whenever it was, when they had the walkout, all over the place, her students walked out. And her comment was, F yes, and in big letters. I wouldn't do that if I was a teacher. I wouldn't put that on my Facebook. I wouldn't put stuff like that. Because if they're ever looking for a reason to can me, and there are companies that are like that, they have their own morals clauses. And, you're breaking it technically that way. And so I asked my wife, should I say anything? Just keep out. She said, the next time you're talking to your brother or her dad, say something if you want. I said, no, I wouldn't say anything to him. Okay, so choose the right profile picture. In other words, it shouldn't be you wasted. There's an idea, right? All right. To be fair, and again, I'm not trying to be funny. Is that a great picture of Josh? I don't know. All right. But it's like if you go out to Facebook and you look at mine, it was at my niece's wedding, and my daughter's next to me, and the wedding was on New Year's Eve. So she's got the real humongous glasses on that say like 2016. You can see part of her in there and part of me. That probably isn't the best picture for me to put in there, but it's Facebook. It's not this. I don't have a picture out here. All right, on my LinkedIn. Add a background photo. I don't know. Make your headline more than just a job title. One thing to be really leery of, all right, and some of you have asked about this. Some of you have your own ideas about it. You know, some people now are putting at the beginning of their resume a professional summary or a career objective or whatever. If you're putting any of that stuff in, that's cool. Don't be too flowery. And also, because I've seen this happen, don't literally under career objective, go find the ad in the paper and type in what's in the ad. That's not what they're looking for. Seriously. Turn your summary into your story. With some people, that's going to be whether or not they even decide to interview you. There are a lot of places today. I have never in my life seen a time where I have seen so many people who say, oh, I do that, but I'm too busy. All right? And these people who are too busy, a lot of times that's what they're doing. They'll go out and see if you've got a LinkedIn page. And if you don't, with some people, I'm not even going to look at you then. All right? Declare war on buzzwords. I wouldn't even say that so much. Just realize that if you start using all sorts of acronyms, okay, for instance, if you were to tell somebody on whether it's your resume or here, you got a degree in AWD, first thing I would do before I would put AWD in parentheses would be to say application and web development, because AWD probably means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. All right, even on your resume, it shouldn't just say AWD. You say, well, I'm just going to apply locally. It doesn't matter. Grow your network. I was reading this article online the other day. 85% of jobs are still being filled by people who know other people. All right. List all of your relevant skills. Okay. Spread the endorsement love. I mean, I'd endorse anybody in here if you wanted me to. That's fine. And if you don't want it, that's fine too. But if you've got people, for instance, if you finish that thing, or maybe you finished it for JC, you say, hey, would you endorse me on LinkedIn? Why not? Why wouldn't he? All right. Again, request recommendations, share media. I just say that one more time. Just be careful with what you've got out on sites like Facebook. That's all. All right. And my wife even said, you hardly ever post anything. Yeah, there's a reason for that. All right. And I don't know if you know this, because I have a strange sense of humor. I find this funny. With Mr. Corrigan, he's got a Facebook account. It's only used professionally. In other words, when people graduate, he tells them to friend him on Facebook, and then when he gets jobs, he puts them out there. He will do absolutely nothing personal on his Facebook account. All right. How do I know that? Last year when it was his birthday, his sister on his Facebook account said happy birthday. He removed her. And I said, well, just for a day? He goes, no, she's gone now. I said, it's Facebook. She can call me if she wants. I don't care. But that's how some people are. Everybody's different. All right. Yeah, I'll add comments. I mean, if there's something about you people should know, put it down. All right. That's about it for there. There was another one, too. I had it open, but then I closed it. Have any of you ever heard of what's called the 30-second elevator conversation? You ever heard of that? The idea is, you're going in for a job interview. All right, you walk into the elevator, and let's just say that it's on the 15th floor. You walk in and you say hello to the person next to you, and it happens to be the person who's going to interview you. You have 30 seconds as the elevator goes up to basically summarize you, yourself, what you're looking for, etc. Would you be able to do that? All right, because there are companies today that will interview you. That's how they'll start. It won't be just, Valerie, tell me a little bit about yourself. It'll be, okay, you've got 30 seconds. Let me have your life story. Seriously. Because they want to see how fast you can think on your feet. All right? That's what it's considered. All right? And I don't mean, don't pull out an index card and start reading it. All right? It shouldn't sound rehearsed. But you should have gone over it at least in your head. All right? All right, next thing. Not to put them on the spot or embarrass them, and hopefully it won't, but when everybody left last week, or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, on Friday or whatever, these two guys over here were left. So I asked them a question. I said, you know that rock, paper, scissors thing? And they said, yeah. And I said, how many versions of that were you supposed to create? And they both looked at me like it was a trick question. And they said, 2? Why? And I said, 25 points for the original, 25 points for the modified. If you only gave me one version, you lost 10 points right away. Because I'm sorry, you couldn't read the instructions. And I don't know how those could have been any more clear. The first version was to give you 25 points in case you had trouble with the other one. We basically did that version as a class. If neither of your versions worked, your score will probably be reflective of that. All right? So again, that's what I was looking for. Now, a lot of you said, well, you know, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, I wanted to put some of this stuff in here, etc., but I wasn't able to. Or fragments didn't work, was one I heard from. Okay. Then put in what you can put in. All right, I have the pieces of paper here. They're also out, that stuff has been put in the book. Some of you in here, you know who you are. All right, the last assignment, which was the take-home test, you didn't give me one. I want it. All right, why? So I can grade it. All right, the three of you who are job possibles for that job with Ms. Dishian, that's great. You all got back to me. All right, but I tried sending out an email, and I realized, you know, let's break. Hell, the last thing I want to do is read my ranking emails. I get that. All right, but it may not have hurt to just once or twice take a quick look. All right, next thing, and I think this was Friday when, Valerie, when you were not here, so I don't think you have one of these. I could be wrong. All right. Okay. Again, this, I told you how I emailed you these couple articles. All right. Now, we are going to talk about this today. All right. And how long? I don't know. This article is extremely complex. That's one of the things I had you copy over. All right. I am going to go over it with you. What I did was I went through their documentation and put in all sorts of comments to try to make it easier for you to understand. All right. I don't know if I made it easier or harder. I think easier. All right. So we are gonna talk about that today. I mean, are we gonna get into these two the next 2 days? I hope so. All right. And yeah, we're gonna do all this. I'm not saying, and it says here, time permitting. It says these should not change. They might change. I don't know. This is not going to change. All right. So today is the 19th, which means what? There's 12 more days. That means that 15 days from today, Tuesday, yeah, 2 weeks from tomorrow, that's when part 1 of this, your user-defined app is due. All right? And I've started on mine. I haven't done nearly what I'd like to do. I was really good at getting nothing done this week. All right? My wife really did a good job of telling me that. All right? But I'm dating myself here, but let's see. I'm going to put this in here anyway. I don't know how many of you in here have ever heard this song because, again, I'm dating myself. This was the music when I was more your age. All right? So maybe you've heard this. Maybe you haven't. Okay? But it's The Who, and they're singing Who Are You? So I decided that for my user-defined app, I'm going to make Who Are You? And it's funny. I was talking, and one of my kids was like, Who? It sounds like an owl. I thought, well, that sounds kind of cool. So, of course, you know, the internet being what the internet is, I typed in, Who are you? And that must not be the one I typed in. I don't remember. But there's one in here that actually plays it. Of course, it's not in here. But it's like 45 seconds long, and when it goes, who, it's all with owls. And it's just stupid enough that I liked it. So that's going to be my home page. All right? And it looked like it was, it's the other thing I was checking to see whether or not I can use that and submit it without having to pay somebody some money. All right? And I don't want to get myself into any trouble. Let's see if I can get that from here. That's it. 37 seconds long. It's just stupid. That's what they're going to see when they open it up. Like I said, is it stupid? Yes. I don't care. All right. I decided if I'm going to do this, you know, I'm not trying to sell it. I'm not trying to get another job right now that I know of. So I figured I'm going to have some fun with it. All right. So to show you real quick what I'm going to do with it, and I want to put this in the guise of, I sent you these last week, or we looked at this a little bit last week. And if you don't have this, I should have emailed this to you last week, so you should have this. But this was called Designing, Wireframing, and Prototyping an Android App. And it's a two-part article. All right? So, in part one, as it says here, in this first installment, we'll look at how to answer all those big burning questions every developer has to tackle when they do a new Android project. In chapter 2, it's more on creating the prototype. All right? So I don't have much of this done, so I don't have stuff to show you, but the point is this. All right? It says there, write a product statement. This wouldn't be a bad thing for you to follow. All right? I'm hoping, as an example, Ms. Dishian and other prospective employers will be here when you guys are presenting. So you're going through and you're showing them that you're able to kind of follow a timeline. Just, you know, literally a one-sentence, you know, explanation of what the app is supposed to be about. That's a start. That's your product statement. All right? Then you go through and you identify your target audience. Now, what a lot of people will do, I was thinking about this, with what I plan on doing. And my target audience, everybody. Okay? But you know what? There's probably like young children probably aren't going to care. All right? And to show you really very quickly, and I'll show it on the board so it won't be taped, but to show you what I'm thinking of doing, I already showed you. The first page is going to be that who are you type of thing. So that's going to be on the first page. The second page is going to be pretty simple. And it's going to come in here and it's going to say, it's going to ask you for your first name. It's going to ask you for your last name. It's going to ask you for your birth date. And it's going to have basically some kind of a button. So it's pretty simple. All right? But remember, it's called Who Are You? All right? So what it's going to do is I'm going to basically grab a bunch of information from your birth date. All right? Such as, I will grab the year you were born, and I will find out, based on the Chinese New Year, were you born in the year of the rat, the year of the dog, etc. So there'll be something with that. All right? Then I'm going to decipher by the day of the year in which your birthday falls, okay? Some information about you as far as your astrological information. All right? So that'll be in there. All right? I'm going to be able to tell you exactly how old you are. And again, is that big stuff? No. You'd probably all be able to do that right now. And that's fine. All right? And then I was thinking about it today. What I wanted to actually do was to sit there and say, okay, let's say that you were born, let's say is your birthday. So what happened in history on March 19th? And be able to give you some of that kind of stuff. That's a lot more work than you might think it is. Because I started looking at it, and what I wanted to be able to do was to basically do was to do a Google search and save those results. And it was a lot more work when I started working on it than I thought it was. So I don't know if I'm going to put that in there or not. All right?
If you use the kind of like website for your birthday, you can look at.
Yes.
You can do a web.
Yeah, you can do it from there. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's an idea. And the other thing I thought, well, since we're putting in your first name and your last name, you know, I could have something in here. I might move this stuff down and say, there's the meaning of your first name, there's the meaning of your last name, type of thing. And that's what it's going to be. Again, would I expect more from you, less from you? I don't know what to expect. The idea was, we only have a certain amount of time to go through this material. I'm going to tell Evan that this class, there were a lot of mistakes with this class, such as way too much time on Java. I didn't want to spend the time on Java. I did. That's what they wanted. All right. I was told you spend a minimum of basically 30 to 40 days on Java. And it's not that I even had a problem with that. I said, okay, I'm just going to go Java, do right away. I'm just going to go into Android. No. You got to teach them Java as an application language first. That's why you got what you got. And a few of you, and I appreciate all the comments, whether they were pro or con, on those reviews that I had you do. All right, but some of you wrote down, you know, I didn't think that book was worth anything, well, even though you didn't pay for it, but maybe it was. Maybe it was a crummy book. You know, you said it would rather pay $100 for a book I could actually use. That's a very fair comment. All right, there will be a book next time. I have no idea what it'll be. All right. So, like I said, that's what I'm looking at doing. So my target audience at first, I thought, well, anybody could use it. But I was thinking more of who probably would use it. And again, you probably wouldn't have a kid who was less than a teenager even typing something like that in there. They probably wouldn't care. You know, so, you know, I would have said like maybe a teenager and above. I don't know. Then they talk about these use cases. You may or may not have heard of this before. But the idea is what you're doing, it says you kind of come up with a typical person who might use your site. That's what becomes your use case. Well, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a male or a female. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You pick someone. And the sex of the person doesn't matter. All right? The age of the person, could it matter? It depends on what the site is about. All right? Create a features list. You may or may not have heard of something like this before, but the idea is, has anybody ever heard, I'm sure you probably all have, of the term brainstorming? All right, maybe at some time in your life you were at a meeting when people were talking and they basically said, okay, we're going to do this. Let's come up with ideas on how to do it. All right, sooner or later, either because people start getting giddy or somebody's a jerk or whatever, somebody says something that's totally outrageous. It's like, and then somebody else comes back and says, that would never work, that's stupid. No, when you're brainstorming, nothing is off the table. You literally can throw out any kind of an idea. Now, it has to be in good taste, all right? But you can throw out any kind of an idea. And the idea, what the author says here, is when you first create an app, you try to figure out every feature you want that app to have. Not every feature the app will have. It's every feature you want the app to have. Then you start to whittle it down and you say, okay, I maybe have this amount of time. I have, you know, this, whatever. Now, what at a minimum will this be able to provide where people might actually want to use it? All right, and that's what they get to in here. sketch out a high-level flow. This literally is paper and pencil. This could be, in this case, for example, you could have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different screens. All right. As I mentioned to you, I expect you to at least have a couple screens. All right. It's not even so much that it's too boring to put it on one screen, but a lot, sometimes when people see just a single screen, they're like, that's not even an app. All right. That's just a regular non-app that'll run on a phone. It's not really an app. I want it to come out with the idea that it is an app. All right. Create a screen list. Well, that's kind of the same thing. All right. Create a screen map. Start figuring out how things are going to go together. Now, it might be that you can jump from any page to any page. And if that's the case, you don't need to have the arrows in every single combination jumping back and forth. But you're showing here a natural progression of how you would want things to go. That should make sense. All right. So that was the first part. Then on the second part, they talked about actually doing the prototyping. All right. And they give you a bunch of resources here. But the one that they recommend is there's a product, and I haven't done hardly anything with it, that's called Balsamiq. All right. And as it says, you can download the desktop app, which I believe is free. And what is it? It's a prototyping tool. If you're going to take the time to actually make a prototype, the idea is the prototype should look at least somewhat professional. If you're showing this to other people and you say, when I started, this was it, and you just show them a bunch of squares that you just link to one another, that's okay. But when you start to actually do something, it's like wireframing a website. All right, so you might start with this, but then you want to start turning it into that. Something that looks more like that. All right, and again, one of the things that makes you do is you start thinking, you know what, this would be better off down here or whatever. All right, sometimes it's just seeing it like that helps. So they run through that. Notice, creating your first wireframe. They walk through it. This guy walks through this, and basically what he does is he says, well, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have this site that when people are on spring break, it'll help them book vacations. All right, it's a mythical site, but that's the one that he uses for this. All right. Thank you. All right. Then he comes in and starts talking about prototyping, and he says, one of the neat things when you prototype is, what's a prototype? It's basically, it's a working model of what you want to do without the bells and whistles. All right. So what do? He said the best tool there is for prototyping is to just go into Android Studio and create an app without any bells and whistles. Just make it functional. The other thing you're doing by doing that is you're showing that you can go and convert this into whatever that's going to end up being. You're showing a natural progression, hopefully, as you're working your way through. So that's what he does. He just goes through here and he draws this up. Again, he's using the Balsamiq tool to do some of this. All right. But again, trying to bring this back around then, what I'm getting to is when you put in your first part of this, all right, at a minimum, what that should be doing is it should be explaining what it is you're trying to do, and at a minimum, even a hand drawing of what it is you're trying to do. It could change. You might show me 2 screens, and later you might say, I need to do the third one. That's fine. All right, you don't even have to go back and change the original one. That's just fine. But if you notice on here, this entire project is going to be worth 250 points. This first part that will be due 2 weeks from tomorrow will be 25 points. All right. This is one time too, just so you know. Because some of you are so famous, you're infamous for a project is due on Monday and you give it to me Wednesday. That ain't happening. You're going to lose 10% for every day it's not turned in. I'm not trying to threaten. I'm just telling you. You will have time to work on it in class too. Then in part 2, you should be making modifications. All right, what does that mean? That means I got it right here. Again, in part 1, as it says, create a one-page description of what the app is about, the types of widgets, etc. This, again, may change. As an example, when one of the reasons that I had you go and change with the loan amortization thing, add a seek bar, was so you could see the difference between having somebody manually put in that percentage, for example, their loan rate, and be able to do it using a seek bar. All right. So at a minimum, you should have 2 pages for your app, the intro page and the second page that has your particulars in it. And again, that's the one that these 2 are the ones I just went through with you right now. All right. And this one right here, this is from developer.android.com. You might read through this and think, well, this is a hell of a lot more professional than the other one was. Then go by that. I'm trying to give you some resources, or use a hybrid. All right? It doesn't really matter, but I'm looking for you to be able to take what you've done over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, and put it all together. My hope is also that you will find some way to incorporate this app into your electronic portfolio. All right. We'll have to see how that. I haven't tried doing anything with Android on it, but we'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it. Again, my thought is you are selling yourself, and that is the best way to do it. Is to say I can do web, I can do programming, I can do mobiles. I can do all this stuff. Whatever it is you're looking for, I can do it. So then part 2, as it says, should be the first draft. I'm going to expect it probably will be in a prototype stage. It's like, Jeff, it does work, but when you click this button, it just comes up with a toast on the screen that says, this is what's going to happen when it's all done. I get that. All right. Then in part 3, this basically, so that's what, more than a month from now. And that's also a week before we're done. All right. As it says, this should be your completed app. You might tweak it. You might decide, I really didn't like my color scheme, or I changed the font, or whatever. But what you should be giving me on that day is basically the app, and the app should work. All right. And then finally, on the 9th, that'll be the day. All right. And it's funny, David Markowitz came in today. I don't know if you know who he is, the counselor. And he makes my morning class laugh because of the stuff he asks me. Evidently, he was spying on some of the students who were in there, so he said, can I walk over there and spy? And they all started laughing. I didn't think it was that funny, but all right. And he asked me, he said, well, what's going on? And I told him, because I invited him. He said, oh, that sounds like it'll be interesting. And I said, and everybody in the class has to do this. There's no excuse. This is not a threat, but I just want you to know that, if it's the 9th, and the 10th is our last day, right? All right, it's around there. All right, ask Tiffany if you want to know for sure, okay? All right, but if you miss that day, you've missed 150 points. All right, and that may be enough for you to fail the class. And I'm looking at it this way. There's not much I can do about that. You've got plenty of notice. That literally is 10 days short of 2 months from now. All right, but as it says, this is your opportunity to both show off your app and your portfolio. That's my hope. There's no format for this. If Amin gets up there first and says, here's my app, and then he shows his portfolio, and then Ethan gets up after him and he says, I'd like to do it in reverse order. It doesn't matter. Or if you go and you prepare, some kind of a small presentation. This is what I liked about this program. I hope it's not going to be a blank slide. All right, this is what I didn't like about this program. I'm hoping that one doesn't have a lot on it. But you know what? I try to look at it that any criticism that you give is constructive. All right. I mean, Charles will probably be here. He told me he's planning on being here that day. All right. I mean, so if you really have it out for me and you think, what, this guy is such a horse's ass. And if you write that in there, that's probably going to make him think. All right. So any questions on that? Because we're going to be going over it again. All right. The big thing for your portfolio is, again, Tiffany asked, it was a very fair question. But what you might want to try doing right now is even grabbing a couple of your Java projects and porting them over there, seeing if you can provide links to them. And not the app, not the Android stuff, but just the regular Java stuff, and see if that works. All right? Because my hope is you're going to show at least one thing from like every class you've done. That's my hope in your portfolio presentation. I don't want to say any more than that, because if I do, then I'm telling you how to do something. That's just the same way as if you go into a job interview, I wouldn't tell you how to act. All right. The only thing I would say is if the person puts out their hand, I wouldn't say no thank you. I wouldn't do that. All right. But you know, some people shake hands real hard. Some shake hands soft. I always look at it that when I'm in church, it's my chance, because I'm Catholic. It's my chance to go and shake hands, you know, during our peace be with you, and that lets me practice. And it's funny because once in a while I'll grab somebody's hand and I realize, oh, I grabbed that too hard, because they're kind of wincing when and sometimes people grab my hand too hard. All right. All right. So what I had you copy today is this. The thing called ListView. Hopefully that's what you did. First of all, it has this, and I didn't remember if I gave you this before or not. It's an IntelliJ IDEA book. It's like 83-page PDF. If you don't want it, just get rid of it. All right. But this is the thing from Ray Wenderlich, their Android tutorial. All right, Android ListView, tutorial with Kotlin. Now, I'm going to start by saying I don't agree with everything that's in here. All right. The author says it's important that you realize ListViews, even though they're not used anymore. Now they've been replaced by recycler views, which we're not going to talk about today, but hopefully we'll get into starting tomorrow. I agree that recycler views are used more than list views. That said, there are plenty of projects out there that have list views. And if you think I don't even know what you're talking about with a list view, it's like if I go into my phone, and as an example, if I go in my phone and I go to phone and I go to contacts, that's a list view right there. That's a list view. That's what it is. All right. It's a list with stuff in it. It can be just text. It could be just pictures, etc. But that's what it is. The example, it's funny because their example, when you run their example that's in this particular thing, and I don't know where they show what it looks like. This is what the example will look like when you run it. Okay, I'm going to make it smaller so you can see all of it. That's what it looks like on your screen. Now, they don't have it totally programmed in that when you click this first one, grill, devil, chicken under a brick, it goes to another page and it shows you some stuff. The other ones that are in here, they don't have links for them. So nothing happens when you click those. Does that make sense? So it's not totally working, for lack of better words. All right? So I go through this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know that many of you have been struggling in this class. I shouldn't say many of you. I know some of you have been struggling in this class. And I thought, well, I could go through this, and I am going to go through it, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, okay? And then I thought, okay, will that make a lot of sense to them? And I thought, yes and no. The ideas will make sense, but there's a lot of code in here. There really is. All right? And you may find that confusing. I don't know. That's why I went back, took their code, some of which didn't work, fixed it, and put comments in, thinking that that might help you. That was the idea behind it. All right. Then I said, geez, I got to find something better that I can use. So just to show you this, and I may have shown you this this guy already? I don't know. But I am taking classes. Okay, now this. I don't have that much stuff open. I'll tell you what, it's 125. This is locked up. So let's take a break. Let's come back at 140, and I'll go over the article at that time. All right.